Negative 36 dB, good?
Good.
Okay.
Alright, sound check.
Sound check, 1, 2, 3, good?
Good, but don't look down.
Why? Is it picking?
No, balding.
What?
Balding.
Balding. You know I'm balding, and you guys know I've been balding for a long time. Hell, the viewers know I'm balding too. And here's the sad fact about men balding or going bald. We don't talk about it, and we don't do anything about it. Guys, you know what? Scrap the tutorial. Let's do something about this balding shit for once. You know what, guys? This is really not fair being a man. This was how I looked like in 2012 when we started this channel. In fact, if you watch this video, this was how my hair looked like in the very first video that we uploaded. And then fast forward to my latest video. In fact, I've been balding since the age of 33. And there's not much I could do about it. Because hell, I've tried this. I even tried this. I've tried everything you can think of. And still the hair doesn't grow back and it got worse. And then I found out that it's hereditary balding. In fact, when I think back, it's about almost the same age that I see my dad went bald. And this is how he looks like now. And don't you laugh, because we men are going to look like our dad as we grow older. And through my research online, I found out that the solution to hereditary balding, like what I'm going through, is something called FUE, which stands for follicle unit extraction. Well, in layman's term, hair transplant. Well, if you look at balding men, they almost never go bald at the back of the head or the sides of the head. So it's mostly at the front or at the crown. Now in my case, it's at the crown. I still have my hairline intact. So what the doctors will do is they will extract the follicles of all the hairs from the back of my head and then plant them to where I'm balding. Makes sense? Seems to work. So through my research, I found that there are a few places in Kuala Lumpur that performs hair transplant, FUE particularly. But one doctor stood out because she's done so many and there are so many success stories from her patients. And it's Dr. Inder from Hair Transplant Center Malaysia at Clinic Dr. Inder. Let's go see her. So, when I arrived, I had to fill up a form that asked pretty much the usuals. My age, my date of birth, known allergies, am I a smoker, and what bothers me the most about being bald. The nurse told me that I won't be able to see Dr. Inder without first getting some photos of my bald pattern analysis done. They proceeded to take photos of my head to reveal the balding patterns that I've been trying very hard to not show during photo shoots. And finally, I get to meet Dr. Inder, and boy, I just love her hair. Wish I have a head full of hairs like hers. Well, she explains to me what causes hair loss. Among the biggest culprit: 1. Family history, hereditary. 2. Stress. 3. Smoking. 4. A lousy lifestyle, maybe like sleeping late or lack of sleep will make you lose more hair. And finally, the biggest of them all, male hormone, androgen, namely testosterone. This causes the most common balding of men, and it's called androgenic alopecia, or simply male pattern baldness. You see, testosterone is produced in men's testicles, the function of which is to create muscle, give us deep macho voice like a man, and it builds bone mass in men. In short, it makes us men manly. And here is the ironic of it all. It also makes us men grow hairs. But this testosterone hormone produces a byproduct called DHT. Now the problem is this: hair follicles found in the crown and the front of man's head have receptors that can bind to this DHT. And when this happens, these hair follicles will shrink, weaken, and then eventually die, causing hairs to drop. And that is the reason why we have androgenic alopecia among men. And at this point, Inder explains to me in great detail behind the nifty trick of how FUE hair transplant works. Hair follicles at the sides and the back of man's head do not have DHT receptors. So DHT cannot bind to them or harm them. So Inder explains what she'll be doing is extract each hair follicle from the side and the back of my head and then plant them to the front and crown of my head. It is important to note that the FUE procedure is not extraction of hair follicles one by one, but instead is the extraction of the whole hair graft. So some of your transplant may have one hair follicle, 2, 3, or maybe even more. However, Inder needs to analyze first how many hair follicles that I would need. She does this by calculating an average. Observe through the magnified view of my scalp and find out how many hairs I have per square cm of scalp. With this then, it gives a pretty good estimation of how many hairs I would need to cover my bald pattern. Oh, but don't be too happy yet. Inder needs to ensure that my donor area, which are at the back and the sides of my head, do have enough hair count to cover this number. Otherwise, I'll just end up being bald at the front, the top, the back, the sides. Well, if you don't have enough hair in them donor areas, then you're going to have this problem. Apart from that, Inder also needs to ensure that my natural hairline at the front is preserved years after this procedure. She uses a pretty high-tech laser marker ruler for this process. She explains in great length the vital aesthetic logic behind having the right amount of forehead, which is from the eyebrow to the hairline. This is very important for you to look good. Otherwise, with not enough of forehead and a good hairline, you will look like a caveman. Now, calculating the hairline is also important now because years from now, my existing hair, not those that are transplanted, this will drop. And when that happens, my hairline will recede. So this is a very important process. So, finally, here are the good news. 1. I have the right balding pattern that FUE can solve. 2. To have me looking not bald again, Inder calculates that I need 3,500 hair follicles transplanted. Number 3. My donor area has sufficient hairs to donate out of these 3,500 hairs. No problem at all. In fact, Inder told me that it's good I might even have sufficient hair for future transplant. Maybe 10 years from now, as I get older, I will shed those existing hair, so I still have enough of backup. So you must be wondering about the cost by now. Well, the procedure is calculated by the number of hairs that you transplant. And to be honest, it varies from patient to patient. So it's a bit hard to tell you exactly how much it will cost because based on your balding pattern, based on the number of hair that you transplanted and all these reasons, so it varies from person to person. Well, in that consultation, in total, it took about 1 to 2 hours. I think I know very clearly now how FUE works and how men go bald. Well, I guess I just simply have to make a decision now, whether to do this or not.